I play the Grandmaster. Yes, I'm the head of Sakaar, and it's colorful, and even though I've lived since shortly after the Big Bang, 14 million years old.
Don't mind me.
I think come into pairs.
Okay, 50-50, and is that it, or not? Like this?
Yeah.
The only thing I like to do is to play games, really, and I have gladiator. When we meet, I'm in the middle of my gladiatorial games. Young Thors. So if you fear not, I can't be killed, just like my brother Benicio del Toro, the collector. And there it is, and that's in the middle of this whole other story, the Thor.
Two, one, go!
I think the objective from, you know, even years before we'd written the script was to change this film up in some way. You know, I think it all started to feel a little bit familiar and predictable.
Like when you come along here, not high, but sort of like low,
Yeah.
and then you just go.
Damn, okay, cool.
Go!
He agreed and, you know, was incredibly receptive, and then we had Taika come on board who had the same attitude. And so, yeah, it was about changing the aesthetic look, the hair, the hammer, the costume, everything, the world. And so it felt like kind of a clean slate, you know, starting again and playing a new character in a way, which was hugely freeing and invigorating. I think there's a vulnerability to him, you know, and then accessibility to him that wasn't there prior, you know. I think the first time I played the character was about making him, you know, playing a god. But the problem is with that is that then it's good for one film, but then after that you sort of hit a ceiling and you have nowhere to go. You know, he has the same problems we all have. He has the same insecurities that we all might have, or the same sort of concerns or fears or whatever. And so this film was about kind of stripping that back and you know, having a greater access to that vulnerability and relatability about, you know, he's one of us. And then so we sort of did away with any exterior sort of confidence, and he was almost on the back foot a lot of the time, which is a lot more fun to play.
My vision originally was just make Thor the coolest character and make him the most entertaining character, otherwise don't call the film Thor. And we wanted, and Chris had already said this to everyone as well, he's like, I want to do something where I'm not doing the same thing, I'm not treading water again and again, I want to change the character up and make him more fun and have an adventure. And so, and Marvel are very responsive to when people want to do that stuff. So I went in and my vision was just that, make it fun and colourful, and look, you know, that poster, it's like, it's got to be like that. It's got to be like the comic books that I grew up with, where it was like splash pages and Kirby art and it's fun and like vibrant and, you know.
What is it? What makes it different from everyone else? You know, no one knew much more about Jack Kirby at the beginning than that he was this fantastic artist, had created all this work. And so we started examining the Jack Kirby work.
To capture the essence of that childhood feeling is about everything being hyper-real. Because of the breadth of design information that we're generating and the amount of storytelling that requires every detail to be analysed and kind of brought into the world that we're creating, we've established another level of the design department, which is my role.
Everyone who's ever seen a Marvel comic knows this world, you know, and so how do we then turn this into a real world that we can shoot? So, so you know, there's a whole lot of things that we use it as an influence for our spaceships, for our weapons, for our costume, for our world. Our world of Sakaar is loosely based and certainly influenced by Jack Kirby's work.
With production designers' help, with Dan and our concept artists, I help translate the director's vision into something that's more practical for the art department to build, and we guide the visual production of the film.
So over here, there's the model we're working up for Sakaar. This is the gladiatorial arena, and the size of it in relation to the rest of the town shows you the importance of gladiators in this world. This model just allows us to explain to everybody what Sakaar is, the levels that it exists on, the sort of basic size of it. We have concept work that pretty much established the whole of this world. Now we're taking it into modelling, we're taking it into set build.
It's not just about building something, it's actually about the interaction between the script and the physical set. What happens in that set determines how it's built and whether it's going to work properly. Whether there's stunt work on it or action, then we decide we'll go to this material because that'll take the stunt side of it. There's a lot of elements there that have to go together and not fall apart. So particularly when you've got large numbers of shooting crew that walk across all this and you know, because they have to work on there as well. So everything has to be worked out structurally.
So right behind me at the moment is the new construction we're doing. We've already shot in these streets, we've repainted them, and behind me is the new construction for the main road up to the Grand Master's Palace. We've repainted all of these streets. You can see some of the undercolour, some of the old colour coming through in the slots, in the sort of Jack Kirby design elements. So we sort of keep referring, you know, every time anyone doesn't understand what we're building, I say just refer to Jack Kirby, you know, it's all there. And sure enough, we go in and we use that influence with our, you know, with our wall textures, our colouring, our shapes. It's very comic book, it's very in your face, it's very primary colour.
We wanted to make sure that the city looked like it was made from recycled metal, and then how would that age? So we did a lot of different, research into how different metals age under different atmospheric pressure, and it was interesting. So we did a lot of sampling, a lot of camera testing for colours. In the end, we made everything look very corroded and had this real leaching coming out of all of the bright colours. So it dulled down the colour where we needed it to, and also just helped create the overall look and the atmosphere. What's the surface? What are the actors going to be seeing? What's the director actually going to be shooting? And that's our bit. So our part is still very important, that, you know, if an actor's leaning up against it, or if it's in the shot behind them, it needs to feel very real, and we actually dictate the rest of the look.
Well, the process with the throne, because that set in particular, it was a blue screen set. So basically, what we build is a portion in mind that it's going to be a grander thing, and we will usually get a concept with that grander picture already roughly drawn out or rendered.
The throne room had a few different elements. The main focus was the throne itself, which was all completely sculpted, and then on top of that we came over with gold powder in a clear medium. And then on top of that, we then added more depth with different glazes, some warmer, some cooler, depending on what detail we wanted to pull out. And then finally, in terms of the throne, with the gold, we then buffed it all with gold paste and wax to really highlight the beautiful detail that was in and around the throne. The floor itself was ply that was textured. And then on top of that, we put 4 different base colours, 5 different glazes, and then we aged on top of that to pull the whole thing together and give it a really nice cinematic feel, because it's important to not only go through the process but then see how it's going to look through camera and what they're going to see.
Yeah, the Hulk bed was interesting. It was I worked a fair bit with Ra on that one. Basically, he wanted it to look like an upside-down weasel skull with the bottom jaw sticking up as the headrest and the eye sockets to the ground. Basically, the story Ra and I were sort of coming up with that bed was once one of Hulk's conquests as a gladiator on Sakaar, and he's just made it into a bed.
It sat inside Hulk's bedroom, which was very bright as well. It was a strong red and white. Again, a bold choice, but it was important for that to be the look of Sakaar. It was meant to be very striking, and it certainly was. So, and the Hulk bed itself was a completely sculpted item again. We finished that off with a bit of a bony sort of look, a little bit more realistic. The bed itself was also inlaid with this certain pattern that we had running through the whole of Sakaar, which ran through the interiors and the exteriors of Sakaar. It was a certain pattern that helped tell the story of where you were, along with the colour.
Everyone will go, oh, it's a bit high, you can't get up to it, and a human can't get up to it, but a Hulk can. So you got to always think of those things, you know. It's just a different environment and a way of thinking. It's pretty cool. It's exciting.
Conjuring things out of stories and sort of using the most amazing talent you can find to generate a world which has never been seen before is the kind of challenge that I think best suits my working approach.
It's definitely the versatility. It's definitely the experimentation of it all. The things, I guess, without colour, without you're just looking at a blank surface. So we work alongside with sculpture, and they add texture. We add the colour as well as some texture, and it just gives everything an element of reality and depth.
I guess what gets me excited is actually the construction or the making of other worlds. You know, it's not everyone can say that they made that world happen.
Because all of a sudden it's gone from everything's been on paper, and then once it comes to us, things are all of a sudden becoming, you know, very real, and that's what the camera's going to see. So it certainly takes it to the next level.
I'm only as good as the crew that I surround myself with, just like anyone. And it's actually really fun to watch people get a kick out of it, and to make sure they have fun doing it. And then when you see it on the big screen, and you know, it's a passion that it really gives you a sense of a different, I would say, a different aspect of being an artist.
As a child, I was always reading comics, or eventually I was reading books and visualising. So I think, you know, visualising is something that everyone does, and then taking that a step further into actually making the things that you're visualising, you know, starting with models. And so in this case, to design a world, to find a world, the world is very much in the script writer's head. You get a script, you read that, oh yeah. You've got a director who's taken this job on because he's visualising this world, and then using influences to tighten all that up. We start to get a crew, you know, and we start to get concept artists, and their vision takes it into another place, you know, and then we get set designers and their vision brings it into another place. And everyone, you know, we'll end up with sort of 300 or 400 people in our art department, construction department, who'll all bring something to this party. So my job really is sort of finding the initial place we're going, and then letting everyone bring something to it that stay on track, you know. But it gets great and big and wacky and wonderful, and everyone gives something, and we end up shooting a film in it, you know.